Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another session of the Startup Series. I have taken a break to ensure the topic that I cover becomes more practical and relevant. But I'm grateful for all of you to join on this auspicious day of the first day of the Navratri to start this. In 2024, we saw a death valley phase for many startups. And today, even if you are not in that phase, we are going to discuss some very practical strategies and lessons from the experts. Ladies and gentlemen, the world of startup is thrilling yet difficult journey. Did you know that up to 90% of startups fail across the industries? That's right. 9 out of 10 don't make it. It's as hard as any competitive exams like IAS and even harder than that. Now let's zoom on in India's deep tech startup ecosystem. In the last 5 years, these innovative ventures raised staggering $10 billion. However, 2023 brought a stark reality check. Funding plummeted by 77%, with only 850 million raised. Investor participation dropped by over 60%. But here's the twist. Despite these challenges, India's deep tech sector is booming. We have over 3,600 deep tech startups with 480 new ones established in only 2023 and even more in 2024, which is double than the number of the previous year. The death valley curve typically lasts 1 to 3 years for most startups. By the fifth year, almost 45% of the startups close their doors. That's why navigating Death Valley is one of the most crucial timeline. And I hope by the end of this session, you at least get 1 to 2 practical insights to navigate this phase. Which is why I'm excited to introduce our guests, both of whom have been investors and have been in this ecosystem for a very long time and help a lot of startups shape their future. I am Govind Kedia. I run Arctic Invent, which helps companies increase their enterprise value by building business-centric IPR portfolio. My company, Arctic Invent, has worked with more than 1,000 plus deep tech startups from Europe, US, and India, helping them build massive value on their product and technologies by way of getting their patents, trademarks around the world faster and cost-effective manner. Now, without further ado, let me first introduce my first guest, Addison. He is partner at Thinkuvate, leading investment firm in Southeast Asia and India. Recently, Thinkuvate launched its maiden fund of 100 crores, aiming to invest 12 to 15 startups annually. This sector agnostic fund will deploy up to 3 crores as an initial investment in each startups, targeting revenue generating companies with early traction and market acceptance. Addition's expertise spans deal flow management, investor connections, portfolio management, and he has led over more than 15 seed to Series A investments in key sectors such as health tech, fintech, IoT, AI, ML, deep tech, agri tech, and climate tech. With his background as ex-HSBC professional and mentor to various institutions and incubators, Edison's bring valuable experience in building deep tech startups. Welcome to the Startup Series, Edison. And also, recently I saw news on closing your first fund of 25 CR. So many congratulations on that, and welcome to the show. And I'm really looking forward to hear from you. Anything that I missed, would love to for you to add something.
Thank you, Govind, so much. Happy Navratra to all your audience, and it is a pleasure to be here today. Would like to share my little experience that I've gathered over the last 20 years. And yeah, the topic is very interesting. You have covered my introduction very well. Nothing to add from my side. Looking forward.
Great. Thanks, Addison. And my next guest, Aditya Arora, he is a dynamic CEO of Fard Capital, a SEBI-registered angel fund with $40 million corpus dedicated to empowering India's startup ecosystem. Under his leadership, Fard Capital has invested with over 100 startups, focusing on seed to Series A funding rounds. Recently, Fard Capital also launched Agri Munch Accelerator, investing 121K in innovative agri-tech startups. Fard has recently invested in Roche.ai, as same as Thinkuvate, which is an autonomous driving technology company. Adit's commitment to entrepreneurship extend to advisory roles in Government of Delhi and mentoring top accelerators, making him a key figure in fostering innovations across India. Welcome to the Startup Series, Aditya. I did a very short introduction. Please add if I have missed anything or anything that you would like to add on to this.
No, thanks a lot, Govind, for inviting me here. And I think you did a great job at the introduction. think when you speak that okay, this person is helping foster entrepreneurship and innovation in the country, I think that is a very uh, big statement in itself, and I try, of course, my best to justify it every day and to live it to the tag. So very interesting to be here alongside, of course, Addison, who's been a great co-investor alongside a great friend for many years now, and to you as well. Of course, we've known each other since a long time in the ecosystem also. So excited to speak to everyone. No nice, exciting things about the ecosystem. I'm looking forward, of course, to what we will.
Great. Thanks, Aditya. And before we begin our conversation, I would like to remind all our audience, which is over 50 now, that avail this opportunity to ask Aditya and Addison any question that you may have in the comment section. I will take it up all along the way in my conversations, and we'll also have an opportunity to also pick up some of the topics and questions that you have. So I welcome you all to make it interactive as much as we can. But let's dive straight in. So my first question to both of you: what is the reality on the ground in deep tech and Death Valley across various stages? As funds, you see ecosystem more closely in this phase. Um, if you can share some situations, even if you don't want to take names, let's start the conversation in helping us understand what's the ground reality in the deep tech and the Death Valley currently.
Aditya, you
Addison,
want to
maybe
go
you
first?
can start. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first. I'll go first. So, the ground reality, in a short, is that a lot of money is chasing very few good assets. That's the overarching statement that I would want to start with. Funding winter, although was painful, was required. There was a lot of froth in the market. Uh, what we believe is that innovation and entrepreneurship is improving by the day. And when I say improving, we see real innovations now taking place. When I say real innovations, there is a mix of hardware and software, but there is a lot of thrust to think first and think different, which is the key to success, right? We have seen a lot of models which were the need of the hour. So the Indian ecosystem has gone through three cycles. The first cycle was between 2008 and 2012, where you saw Flipkart, Paytm, Zomato, all these, Policy Bazaar. The second cycle ended with the exit of Flipkart to Walmart around 17 and 18. The third cycle ended at the end of COVID. In between, we had a black swan event, which was COVID. Obviously, a lot of extra cash had to be put in. Some companies had to get on survival modes. Some survived, some didn't. But then once the floodgates opened, there was a lot of cheap capital available between 2021 and early part of 2022, and then the tightening started to happen. uh, I personally believe India is at the cusp of the inflection point now. I do believe that a lot of innovation is taking place, but uh, there is money in the market, and you would see that a lot of activity has started to pick up again. There's a lot of events happening, a lot of funding announcements happening. Physics Wala recently got a big round. Whatfix got a big round. So money is there, money is available. A lot of the funds who have raised capital, including ourselves, we closed our first round recently. Uh, 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 so we are on lookout of good opportunities, but the moot point is that uh, after the so-called funding winter, businesses have to focus on building core products which have a clear path to profitability. Those are my opening submissions right now.
Yeah, thanks, Addison. Aditya, what's your experience on the current realities in, especially about Death Valley across the sectors? What's your feeling like?
Hmm. I think it's last few months have given us the recovery, and of course have given us the feeling that it's really not a death valley but a unicorn valley, right? Where you're seeing a lot of companies are now getting to that same similar valuations, right? So as Addison said, like companies like Whatfix are almost raising close to at or like at astounding valuations, right? And those typical valuations that you see is that you saw in deep tech. There's a multiple double-digit figure that's all that's happening. And what I see is that before, so when the Black Swan event was, there was COVID, right? You could see that, of course, companies were just getting right funded there, left, right, and center, right? But now we see that some kind of sense is prevailing in the ecosystem, right? Investors are looking more deeper into profitability and more deeper into where the origination of the cash flow is, and who basically can is the recipient of that capital, and what is the end spread that the whole business is making in this entire process. I think in that ways business models have become much more I would say scrutinized, well monitored, and I think this whole deep tech ecosystem that we are talking about, right? I think this is of course going to double or triple in the next coming time, because I think the India's deep tech policy also, that is officially yet to come in more deeper, right, is going to of course shed in more light into what are some of the newer spaces and what are some of the newer areas in which more startups could be developed. We've already seen that happening in space tech. We've already seen that happening a bit in your AI and ML models. But I think we are going to see another kind of a revolution more in new age technologies such as nanotechnology, right, bio research, right, medical research. So a lot of this, I think, this whole transformation is still yet to happen.
Sure. No, great.
And
Thanks.
I'll just quickly like to add what Aditya said. I do believe that real innovation is taking place now. And when I say real innovation, lot of thrust from government as well as the stakeholders have has been stressed to build real products and solutions. And it's a it's a belief that India will have 100 unicorns in the AI space, at least 3 or 4 unicorns in the space tech, couple of them in the defense space, and there will be a lot of thrust on reaching the last mile. So even the even the sustainability will get a lot of push from climate and green tech funds.
Sure. Sure. No, great. I think that's really great news for anybody who's listening and thinking of doing deep tech startup. These are really encouraging as insight. Having said that, of course, one thing that I also note is real innovation that Edison and Aditya talks about is that yes, it has to solve a real problem. Gone are the days that the froth and that capital will be available for anything which is just on a presentation level, right? So I think that's a really interesting insight. Thank you for this reality check. And the value of death is critical challenge for a lot of startups, right? I mean, and from your experience, Addison, Aditya, what you have seen in the past, some of the startups, what mistakes while planning the startup journey, in this for this phase particularly, uh, what are the mistakes that people do while planning their startup journey for so that they don't avoid these situations of death valley? Aditya, maybe you can go first this time.
Sure. So I think I would say more than mistakes, it's I think learnings, right? That startups do with time, right? So I think first thing is that what I've seen right now doing is that when capital was available for very cheap, right? Most of the startups were going and fundraising with just a pure plan story. But I think that is where the death valley comes in, because if you're not planning your efforts, be it marketing, advertising, fundraising, or anything, right, in that ways, you're not measuring it with let's say a yardstick of numbers, right? Then eventually you're falling short always, because thing is that capital is burning faster these days, because the avenues to spend capital have increased significantly. The cost, of course, of doing distribution has gone up in that ways. And the third aspect is also that the consolidation spaces is happening, right? So once you start to consolidate for that same spot, right, you are competing with multiple startups, be it in performance marketing, be it also in Google AdWords, be it also in fundraising also, right? These days we are seeing that on just one simple concept, we are seeing 4 decks coming in one day, right? Where we are probably seeing that okay, there's not a lot of actual difference. So you need to, I think, make sure of the fact that okay, whatever efforts that you're doing are being measured with a yardstick of time, right? So you're following the build, measure, learn kind of feedback loop, right? Which Eric Ries talked about in his book, The Lean Startup. And I think the second aspect, right, is also in terms of this the people that you are hiring these days. I see a lot of, so last 3 4 months I've been seeing a pattern, right? A lot of companies, prominence, co-founders are kind of leaving the company, right? Of course, I'll not take names, but all of us are reading about it every now and then, right? And that is where I'm also seeing that the value of death is sometimes not always about external factors, but also sometimes about internal factors and internal management and controls also. A lot of companies are now kind of the board reshuffling as the activity has gone up so much. Auditors are being changed every now and then quarters, right? So in that sense, I think that there is still certain kind of shakiness that is there in terms of how the internal cost controls and operations and the whole management operations are handling. But I think, yeah, you should focus on healthy practices, right? Also from day zero, all right? So it's not just about surviving the value of death, right, or escaping the value of death. I think that jackhammer is always up on your head, right? And the moment, of course, you kind of go down the path, it's very difficult then to come to that level, and it's very difficult to revive companies who are, let's say, are sitting at almost 2 3 months of runway and then waiting for some magic to happen, right? So that's what I say. I think these are my two opening points. I can go on and on this topic. I'm pretty sure Addison would make some more great points on this, because this is something we keep talking about. But yeah, I would love to, I think, know from Addison also. Yeah.
Yeah. Addison, your view, what are the mistakes while planning this startup journey?
So I'll break it up in a story format, right? When you are starting, think about creating value and don't chase valuation. That is the basic. Okay. So when you are trying to create a business out of an idea, first thing is what that particular business is going to serve and how it is creating value into the ecosystem. If you create value, valuation will chase you. Number one. Number two, where startups generally go wrong, and Aditya briefly touched upon, is they must have a complementary teams and skill sets. Okay, I have seen two geeks building a product not being able to sell. I have seen two great business guys not concentrating on the product fail. You have to have a very healthy mix when you're picking, because where startups really go wrong is the team you build. Great success comes from great teams. Always believe that in any sphere of life, whether it is a political party, whether it is a team sport, whether it is an organization, the the, the proof of the pudding is the team. Always money is always given to the individual, his execution capabilities. So the entire story of Valley of Death revolves around the team and its resilience. There will be hard days, believe me. There will be difficult days where you even will contemplate why you did this and where did you go wrong. There will be questions that you will ask yourself. To all the entrepreneurs who are entrepreneurs today and wanting to be entrepreneurs, hats off, because it's a very difficult thing. You don't get paid on 30th of the month. Those who are sitting and giving you comments from outside, once you once you cut your supply line and come and do the hard work, it's a very difficult story, and they are doing that hard work. But I always believe in method to the madness. You should give yourself decent probability to win. And to win, you need the team. That is point number one. So obviously I made 2 points. One is chasing value, then valuation. Second is to start with the team part. The third important factor is the team also revolves around who are you picking and choosing to do a particular job. Passion is very good. Execution is the king. I always believe that. I have seen ideas. I have been around for nearly 20 years in the financial services. Worked in banks, worked in private equity, I started my own company, which I've sold now. So I've seen a lot. Having said that, the great teams have passion, they have tremendous execution capabilities. They are very open to feedback. They are very nimble on the feet in terms of pivots. and they always keep the macro vision and the final vision in mind. If you mix all this, you have a great recipe. Okay, and then of course the idea, of course, is important. You don't want to get into a run of the mill idea or reinventing the wheel. Uh, at times in different sectors, patient capital is also required. Okay, the frugalness of building a business makes a lot of sense. When I say the word frugal, Hindi mein you can call it jugaad, but jugaad is a very it's not the correct meaning that I want to portray. Jugaad is like you're doing quick fixes, but frugal is using the resources in the optimum way. There are very two different meanings to the word. Generally, frugal ka Hindi version is jugaad लगा देते हैं लोग, and that is not the right thing to say. You have to remain frugal, and when you are hiring, also hire the people who believe in the product or the solution or the vision. Don't hire them because they need a job or they want to get a very good pay rise, because hiring is the most critical concept. Or in an early stage, if you hire the wrong person, your 1 year is wasted. The reason being, I have seen business plan, they put the salary numbers in the business plan. Okay, but tell me one thing, if you want to change a job, you will appear for an interview, then you will serve your notice period, and then you will come to the new organization, and then you will get paid on the fourth month first day. So technically there is a lag of 3 months for every good hire, give or take. If it's a senior hire, the lag increases because they have to shelf their responsibility at the current organization and move to the next organization. So you have to get your people management skills, and your sense of picking the right team is very, very important. You have to wear a captain's hat when you are a founder. Then important thing is execution, how you're utilizing the resources. If you manage these 2 points, that is to pick the team and remain frugal, there is a high probability you're giving yourself to navigate the valley of death. Those are my opening comments. I want to share
Great,
more.
Addison. I think building team and finding right is another, can of worms. If you open it, then I think every founder will start crying, literally tears in their eyes. I think everybody, have this problem of hiring the right person. And, great summary. And I think one lesson that I will take away is that when we are planning a startup, plan for team and plan for value. And Aditya, as it said, that it has to be about teams and making sure that we are adding value, right? So great. I think that is a very, very important element to it. Very interesting question from Tarun Kohli, and I think a very short answer to this question, Addison and Aditya, both of you. In the current situation, through startup cycle, though startup cycle is becoming more matured, funding is becoming selective. What you expect as success percent as startups move from initial launch to maturity phase? Just a number is enough so that we can carry on. So, but I wanted to pick this very interesting question, which is linked to our conversation.
Aditya, you want to take this or should I go first?
You go first, Addison. Yeah.
So, very good question. See, market becoming mature will ensure that we will get better quality startups. That is point number one. When you talk about the success rate, see, success will take time. It is first 90% hard work and 10% luck. When you add the two, it becomes a success. But you need little bit of luck also to actually survive and sometimes succeed. But in terms of the percentage, if you want a percentage, generally thumb rule says that 20% of the startups make it, 80% generally fail. Even with maturity, US and China are very mature markets, but they follow the concept of fast fail than slow burn. India will get there eventually. So if you're trying something new, if you're trying something different, raise the capital, try and get to a MVP or a prototype, and then see if you can commercialize it. Even in the deep tech value system, there is TRL 1 to TRL 9. TRL is technology ready level. So basically, the time of commercialization, and Govind is here, maybe he can correct me. TRL 6 is where you commercialize a product. So when you're talking about a mature business or a mature idea, you will have to spend at least 1, if not 2, or at times 3 years to get to a functional prototype, which we usually call TRL 6. But then you can file patents around it, which creates the defensibility mode of the business. So if once the maturity and the quality improves, I think the success rate will go from say 20 to 25%, even 30%. Because for me, how do you measure success? A person can run a 100 crore company and be super happy he would not raise money. A 1,000 crore company would be losing 500 crores every year with great valuation and limelight, but not being profitable. So success lies success, the definition of success is very different to different people. You can run a fantastic 500 crore company, get it listed on BSE or NSE. Every year you can declare profits, grow organically, buy some other companies in other geographic and assets. You will still succeed. It will take time, but you will succeed. On the contrary, you can raise a lot of capital, throw money at a problem, try and solve the problem, get to certain level valuation, and then you may also go for an IPO with negative net profits. And over a period of time, like Zomato, build up a great company around it, where you add different pieces to the puzzle and become profitable. So to answer, it's a long answer, but it required a little bit of clarity, because success is a very definition keep changing. So I think with maturity, I think the success rate will shift from 20 to about 25%, give or take.
Sure. Great. Thanks, Addison, for picking this, audience question. Now, one phenomena which is also happening around reducing the time to market. I think with this, era of information is easy to access. With AI, you can actually research faster. Uh, the time to market in the space is reducing, as per statistically speaking, in the deep tech. What has been your experience in your portfolio? What did they do well in terms of minimizing this space for them? Some tips and tricks around reducing this time to market for deep techs. Would be love to hear your thoughts around it.
So maybe I think I can take
Yeah,
a initial punt on it. So I think time to market is going down. I think because of the maturity of the ecosystem, right? What primarily I've seen is in every space now, right? Inside deep tech, right? There are plenty of accelerators available, or plenty of incubators available who give access to a lot of contracts right from early on. So, for example, if we talk about, let's say, defense, right? There's this challenge called the IDEX challenge, right? IDEX 2.0, right? Which is done, of course, in coordination, in conjunction with the defense services. And the winner of the IDEX challenge, of course, gets certain contract from the Indian Army also, right? So essentially, I think what the time to market has reduced is significantly because of the early level incubation acceleration support. Another example I can give you in this regard is, let's say, IIT Madras's Research Innovation Park. A lot of these companies are growing out from that space only, right? You have Agnikul, Cosmos, Garuda. All these, of course, are amazing, and there are plenty of more names, right? Some of them we are invested also, Galaxy, Panther, right? Who are, of course, Big Bang Boom Solutions, and plenty of companies which are coming out from that space and kind of doing extremely well. And this cross collaboration that has happened is these companies are doing technological validation much faster because there is a huge resource and abundance of capital, of know-how available. In fact, a lot of these professors from IIT Madras themselves get involved, right, as co-founders in the companies, right, and give that technological validation faster, so that the time to market becomes eventually less, right? So I think that in that way, it's a phenomenal area that it is happening from both ways. A, the technological validation is coming in faster, right? And B, this contract, I think, is getting matured at an early stage. C is also, I think, the it's a macroeconomic factor, is the growing pressing need of India as the next superpower, right? So the lot of these companies which have gone ahead and, of course, done well on the public markets have created an area of trust, and have also, in fact, created an area of long-term sustainability in the minds of foreign investors and foreign companies. where companies want to partner up with, of course, people who are building up early in the technology space. The Indian technology has laid its footprint and has laid its roadmap, I think, very clearly on the global level also, right? So in that ways also I personally have seen it in my portfolio companies that foreign clients and companies are very excited to work with Indian companies because they know that okay, they'll of course find some frugal ways of doing things, which Addison was saying, right? And there is certain level of technology validation also, where India is becoming, of course, the next technology hub also. I think all these factors is what I see.
Great. Thanks, Aditya. Aditya, Addison, any thoughts on this? I have a lot to cover, a lot of questions for you.
I
Uh,
understand. That is why I think Aditya has covered it well. I'll move on to the next question.
Great. No, thanks, Aditya, for helping us understand this very important, because I think the faster we get to the market, the death valley, at least you pass that for the first phase. So that's very important.
The only point I want to add is when you're building uh, the concept to the commercialization piece. If it is a tech product, always go for protecting it through the IP. That is a very important thing because a lot of value is created by getting the right IP notifications done. Government has given a lot of patents. There are four categories basically: product, process, patent, and utility, design and utility. But I do believe that a lot of the patents can help to create more value to the commercialization aspect, thereby helping the companies to navigate.
Um, I think there was some connection issue. So thanks, Addison. So also, now my next question is that when founders are really with the long R&D cycle, especially space techs, and which takes a while to get there. How can founders effectively break down their R&D process into fundable milestones? And what criteria you consider that these milestones and potential funding sources, if there is any match between early stage with grants, if you can give some bit of ideas when we are planning this R&D for startups, how to match the milestone versus funding source. If some insights on that would be really great.
So so typically in deep tech, you require patient capital. Period. It will not happen like what happens in a consumer or a quick commerce situation. It will take its sweet time. Having said that, lot of the capex cost is pushed towards BOM, which is the bill of materials. Basically, you have to order raw material or equipments or chips, and then build a product around it. So when you are raising the capital, always budget break the cycle in three phases. One phase will be, of course, because you will have to uh, bake in three big factors. One factor is the the procurement of the raw material, which will eventually get you the prototype. Second is the team which will deliver the 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 engineering, or for that matter, in this case, the tech. And third piece is obviously you will require the capital. So capital follows the first two. Okay. And you have to budget in a 3 to 6 month discussion lag before the actual money hits your bank account. Okay, so from a R&D cycle perspective, when you are getting a good number upfront, pick it up in a way that you are good for at least 18 to 24 months, because within that time frame you'll have to deliver the workable prototype. And in during this, keep some money aside, as I was making a point in the last question as well, for filing for certain IPOs, especially in the deep tech facility, because protection of what you're building is very important. If there is no defensibility moats, and the way the technology is proliferating and changing over uh, every day, what is relevant today becomes redundant tomorrow if you don't protect it.
Yeah.
To plan it, it's very important, and you have to break it down into smaller pieces. And first would be probably get to say TRL 3, TRL 4, then probably from TRL 6. So when you're building a product, see whether the product itself can be sold. One is to see it as a complete product suite which is integrated into different layers. But sometimes, for bot companies, for drone companies, can you sell the drone standalone if it is effective enough? If it is a bot company, can you sell the bot standalone? So all those innovative ways of seeing some POC revenues. Even if you're doing POCs, don't do 3-month POC which is not paid. So all those factors also play a lot of importance while you're making these decisions.
Great. Thanks, Addison. I think that makes a lot of sense. So, Adit, any points on this,
No,
especially
no,
on?
I think Addison has covered it. I wanted to say on the
Okay,
DRL part only, but I think he's covered it very well. So we'll move on. Yeah.
great. So, Aditya, I have a different question. So, we have seen Atal New India Challenge. You talked about IDEX, uh, government funds to support startups have been often underutilized. The draft of the national deep tech policy has been formulated to stimulate the innovation, and like you said, that there is a specific focus on deep tech as such. Could you share some successful examples or ways for startups who can use these non-dilutive funding source, or is it even recommended? Any strategies particularly well when companies chase for the government fundings and grants? Some insights would be really great.
Sure. See, non-dilutive capital at an early stage is like a gift, right? So always helps, right? As in, you need capital by your side to do through R&D, and especially when your product is not something which can be just developed into a manufacturing co-packing facility and can just be like supplied to customers the next day. You need time to research and do the validation of it. So I think yes, capital helps you to, of course, do this in a much better and a much faster manner. Second thing, yes, I believe equity-free grants and funding is something that startups underutilize a lot, right? Um, uh, but that is a gold mine. I literally have a friend of mine who's not raised any venture capital funding, has raised 5 to 6 crores just in pure and play grants only, right? Through various competitions, through various exchange meets, right? Through various business symposiums with industry chambers, and all of that helps. Does take a lot of time. You don't get it sitting in the comfort zone, right? You don't. You have to move out. You have to meet people. You have to meet more people, and you have to figure out ways. You have to, of course, figure out the whole system, right? And you have to be patient at the end of all of this, right? Because this is something that takes time. So anything which is coming as a gift to you takes time, right? So in that ways, you have to be very patient, right, with the entire process. So yes, I think it's you should focus on and especially deep tech startups who, of course, are building core technologies and need that capital to build the framework of those technologies, right? Because there's not a lot of angel investment that still happens on the framework of that technology. So when you speak about R&D, the D part is still covered where the development is happening, prototype funding is still given, right? But the R part, research part, and purely the back end, the unsexy part of the business, that is still not being funded to that level in India, right? So yes, you should focus on all of these, all of these things. A great hack I can tell you is there's a beautiful website called Startup India, right? And of course, I'm not promoting them, but essentially they're as in they're doing great work in terms of laying out what all policies are there. So what if once you go to their website, right, you see an India map out there, you can select your state, and basically they've created a repository where it can even tell you state level policies that are applicable to the office domiciled in the local state, right? So there also you can get a lot of these policies level data and a lot of these information. So yes, I think you should utilize those resources, and then there is, of course, a lot of government has set up Startup India, Invest India, a lot of these quasi-government organizations also, which does huge kind of a sort of groundwork. Then at a deep tech level specifically, there are old age organizations like NASCOM, right, which are of course also working specifically on this with the separate center of excellence for artificial intelligence, deep tech, and IoT kind of hub. So all of this is available to companies. It's just that you need to sit down, research about these things, do those research, and move out of course of your fancy laptops and meet people and get this kind of grants coming in, right?
Great. Thanks, Addison. I have a different question for you in interest of
Okay.
time. So, a lot of times when there is a death valley or there is a near death valley situations, sometimes deep tech companies also resort, or of course, to generate some revenues and some cash. They serve or do some bit of small services business, and that really sometimes comes in a very negative. From an investor point of view, sometimes when they are raising a follow-on rounds or having that capital conversations, it's a classic dilemma, right? That when you're building a product, why are you doing service? But they have to survive, right? So, uh, share some insights. How founders can navigate this situation. When they are in the valley of death or they are nearing valley of death.
There is an old English proverb, survival of the fittest. Okay. And if you are a founder, an entrepreneur, you have full rights to protect your interest, protect your idea, and protect your company. Right. As an investor, I want to see how differently and how quickly you can think. So, uh, while the question is valid, whether it is a dilemma, at an early stage, yes, you have to keep the lights on. Believe me, it is not easy for a deep tech company to spend money on research, spend money on prototype, and also make sure you are able to pay salaries. And just to quickly touch upon the last point also, government sits on huge budgets. I don't even know if our ecosystem knows how many grants they can get. Each and every sector has got a parent organization which sits with roughly 2000 odd crores every year, and of nearly 500 to 800 crores is returned to the government's exchequer every year. So that is not getting utilized. Just wanted to digress a bit. But coming back to your question, it is very very imperative that when you are a deep tech company and you have to navigate, if you get a consulting services, and I've seen IoT companies who are done consulting, I've seen drone companies do a lot of consulting business to build their product. I am seeing one space company which is excellent, by the way, and using some of the consulting piece to teach space research to kids and getting some sort of revenue to keep their research going. So I don't think it is a challenge. It is just how you portray it. If you yourself portray it that no, I did it sheepishly, slyly, that is not important. You can just be upfront to the founder. I was looking to raise capital. I had to bridge the gap, and that is why I'm doing it. It is non-core activity, but it has kept the lights open. Every smart good investor would understand this. I don't think that is a challenge.
Great, great. Thanks. I think it has been sometimes a conversation that if you do too much of
I,
service or
I
you
have
are
I
very
have a different problem that
yeah.
I have a problem when a founder says I am in my day job and I will come to this company when you give money. That is my problem.
Of course,
But if he
of
says that I am in this company, I'm trying to do something else, and I need more money to build this up, that is okay. But if he's saying that I'm doing something else, I will do this when you give me money, that is a wrong thing.
Okay, great. No, thanks, Addison. I had so many questions, but thank you. It is really great insight so far. Now, the question to both of you. Your uh, when there is a death valley coming in, it's does not happen suddenly, right? Uh, yes, it sometimes hit you unpredictably in the deep tech development, but how can founders create realistic yet flexible financial projections? And what are the key metric they should be monitoring very closely to avoid these situations, or at least have some planning ahead? So, some insights on practical strategies on the financial management would be a great insight here.
But probably I'll take the first bit
Yeah.
punt on it. Um, so I think, financial projections are, I think, the heart and soul of the business, and I specifically like them more because it kind of moves away a bit from the theory, right, and talks about sanity, right. So I think yes, it's important that you create it more from a balanced perspective where you're not going too conservative and you're not going too over optimistic. In fact, in all financial statements, I say there's one basic rule, right? And that rule is that always undercommit and over deliver. right? So don't put something as a number which just looks great on the sheet, which is just a great hockey stick growth. Put in realistic numbers, right? Nobody would, of course, hold you from hand to mouth once you don't achieve it those numbers, because these are just projections, right? But still, I think it shows the mentality of the founder. And I've seen, of course, financial projections, of course, becoming a very important kind of decision metric for a lot of investors in terms of evaluating whether they want to invest in it or not. So I think three quick strategies that I can tell you is: one is, do your benchmarking of the market extremely well, right? So in case you are beating the market in a certain way, make sure that you have a backup answer prepared as to how that is happening, and that should reflect in your numbers also, right? So whatever you're doing, that just have a backup preparation of it. B is always check your numbers with an expert, right? What I always tell in a financial sort of projection is, because see, a lot of these, let's say Addison was talking about the bills of materials, right? A lot of these are sometimes technical things also, right? And there is always a cheaper option available, right? So once you talk to an industry expert, they can give you much better knowledge in terms of how this cost can be, let's say, optimized in the coming time, right? Or maybe even if you have put in the right cost or not, or if you've taken the right assumption or not, because projections are just assumptions, right? And assumptions are very subjective, right, to the human mind. So somebody who's an expert can give you much better knowledge and also cite practical examples of how this is happening, right? So I think always check your financial projections with an industry expert. Always helps. um, I think third is, don't just put in too much of numbers and just put it all a mumbo jumbo right in front, right? Firstly, always have those. Once you go to an Excel sheet, there's always a plus tab, right? Where you can put in multiple tabs under the common heading, and then if somebody wants to expand, they can expand. So always your whole financial projection should be a narrative, right? Where it shouldn't just be like numbers on a sheet and you are trying to figure out. Sometimes it looks like a buffet, right? You're trying to figure out, okay, where the main course is actually starting from, where is the dessert, right? So essentially, in that ways, it should be very, very simple, very, very easy flowing. And in case somebody wants more details, you could have more versions of it, more deeper versions of it, or maybe add it with the combine those slides with the plus icon, right? With the merge icon. And yeah, in that way, I think yes, it always helps. So I think these three things.
Great, thanks, Addison. Since you're a banker, see four metric that you would say that founder has to be on top of every time.
So I have a very specific answer. When I ask financial projections from a startup, I get a very beautiful operating model. What Aditya was telling me, different tabs and all that. But business is about cash flow. Okay, I mean, I have not seen, very seldom, maybe 1 out of 50 companies send me a three statement model. They don't build a balance sheet. They never build the cash flow statement. There's always operating model, EBITDA negative, EBITDA positive, up to net income at best. Okay, if it's a manufacturing business, they'll probably have a debt revolver in there, which kind of adjusts the cash. But what is business? Business is about profits, right? And cash flow management. So when you're building a financial projection, first and foremost, don't stretch yourself more than the cloth that you have, right? That's the principle on which every businesses are built. If you are an entrepreneur, you have raised 8 crores, then budget for 8 crores. Don't budget for 10 crores. If you need 10 crores, then ask the investor to put 10 crores. Don't ask him for 8, spend 10, and then after when the last 6 months are going on, you are on ventilator, then you are starting to fire people, you're cutting down on costs. And the second piece is, when you do this budgeting, always do through a quote mechanism. When I say quote mechanism, look at who are the best, and where you can get the best services. Sometimes it is good to pay a little higher to the best guy than to pay less to an average guy, because he will create more trouble for you. And when I say trouble, it is not about the money that you're spending, it is the time you're losing, and time is very critical at a very early stage. So again, management of resources and management of capital becomes very, very critical in financial projections. Generally, it is all about cost and hiring, costs and hiring. We very seldom, when you ask him where you will do the marketing, who is looking after the performance marketing in case of consumer businesses or other businesses, they're clueless. Absolutely clueless. So as a founder, you should have a tab on it. I think the first and foremost thing is always ask for a little more, save it, and try and spend it in a way that, see, fundraise will take 6 months from the time you think, not from the time you need. So generally people go when the need occurs, then you go for the fundraise. Very few can pull it off, and they have great people management skill, so that is an exceptional category. But 95% of the people generally wake up when it's need, not when you have to plan upon fundraise. So and if you're planning a fundraise, your point one, say point zero to point one, should have some story. Point one to point two should have some story. There should be movement upfront. Otherwise, you are at the mercy of the investor who is coming in to drive the conversation. So the long answer to your short question is that financial projections and cash flow, for that matter, is very very critical. If you keep a tab on the cash flow, I think you can navigate the death valley much better.
Sure. Great insight, Alison. And one thing that I add and I learned, one of the founders that I spoke to, is that sometimes what happens that, one of the founders always in a, fundraise mode, which is sometimes not ideal, right? That they do not raise capital enough, especially, the projection or the milestones are not set in a way that they, do a very small round and then, get 8 months, and then, the R&D cycle is probably 2 years to get there. And sometimes it's just like, running behind, and then you are not doing real work. And then, so I think one of the things that I learned from one of the founders, that okay, raise enough that at least gives you 2 3 years, and not thinking about money, and just do the work, right? So that was something I also learned from one of the founder that we worked with. But since the time is short, I have I have very specific questions, and you have to give me answers to that. But thank you for giving your time today. I understand this entire topic is something that we cannot probably cover in 1 hour. But my question is specific to you both. Three things that you want to tell audience or people who are in the death valley phase or coming to it, what must they do? And the second 3 points, people who are in the deep tech, probably the initial money they have raised, how to avoid that death valley. So 3 points to each of these situations. If you are nearing or in the death valley, what should I do? If I'm raised my first round, how can I minimize my risk or get a plan done right now to make sure that I sail through this phase? With that, we'll conclude it. So, Aditya, maybe you can start, and then Addison. So, very specific question.
No, I think first and second question is kind of joined with each other. And the first advice, of course, you're after the first raise is don't go to Death Valley, and the Death Valley's first answer can become have enough capital so that you don't go to Death Valley. But any which ways, so I think for the first question specifically is when you have raised your first round of funding, right? How do you make sure that you don't go into the Death Valley again? I think some of these points I briefly touched. I think A is have those best practices right from day zero. Don't wait for you to become a 100 crore company and then start best practices. Right, even if of course you are a 1 lakh company, even I don't know, you are a new day one company, right? Just start doing best practices from day zero, not even from day one, from day zero of your journey. And these best practices include I think having the compliances done in the right way, having the legal, of course, all the filings and everything done in the right way, or having all the secretarial compliances, everything done in the right way, informing your investors, right, of what is going on after the first fundraise, right? I think all that tick all those boxes, right? The governance, the good corporate governance that we speak about. The second aspect is that always be on top of your market, right? People think that startups are a very isolated journey, and it's projected also that way, right? The founders, of course, are a different creature soul, but I think in that ways, I also see that their own personal journeys might be isolated, but their own professional journeys should not be isolated, right? So you should, of course, catch up with your maybe even your peers, right? In that way, you should have a healthy sort of competition that is there, and maybe understand how this market is getting navigated, because India is so huge, right? And no one problem can be solved by just one player in the market, right? So essentially, in that way, is how the market is tracking what is going on. Should always have those good and healthy relationships with kind of everyone. You should keep catching up time to time and learning the market from them as to what is going on, and maybe sharing your insights also. That always helps, right? And this can help you avoid value of death multiple ways, because you are then also getting the market feedback, right? Rather than your own individual company's feedback, you also get a market feedback on the product. So I think that is there. And I think third is, always prepare shorter goals, right? Although entrepreneurship is an arduous long marathon, but having shorter term goals always helps. So if you're planning to, of course, win, let's say in the next 6 months, your idea is to, let's say, develop cash flows from one particular operation, or let's say in your 12 months plan is to, let's say, get EBITDA positive, right? Or to hit a certain gross margin percentage, or to whatever, right? So essentially make shorter plans, make specific goals, right? Don't go and, because see, everybody wants to decrease cost and increase revenue. In that way, this is how only businesses can be scaled, right? But if you just look at it and from a whole gross perspective and just go out and spend all costs to increase your revenue, or just make countless revenue experimentations and without any accountability of cost, you're failing either ways, right? So focus on specific plans and actions, and then I think you'll be there. So I think those does answer the questions in a bit, as in
Yeah. No,
I would love
thanks,
to.
thanks very much, Aditya, and thank you for time, and thank you for these insights. Addison, your three plus three, or only three advices for founders would be good.
See, life and the audience today and all of us, we know what to do, but very few in the world know what not to do. Okay, and when somebody can guide you what not to do, it saves you resource, time, and money. Right, and time is very very critical, I believe. Resource and money can still come and go, but if you lose time, it's the greatest loss of all
Absolutely.
times. So I would strongly recommend that when you are starting up, get a mentor. Very important. A industry expert or somebody whom you can rely to, who has industry experience, expertise. Seek advice. That is very important. And when I say seek advice, not at the start but constantly. So it's basically you should be flexible enough to take criticism and feedback. So that is that is the very basic nature of entrepreneurship. Hustle, and you should have a very you should be nimble on your feet. If you have these two ingredients, rest of it is more operational in way. The third piece, the third important point is, when you are navigating, is of course make sure that, so it's about, I'll use a cricket analogy. So if you're chasing a target of say 300 runs, you will not get the 300 run in the first over, right? So you'll have to split it in smaller bricks. So if first 15 you want to get there, next 30 you want to get there, and the next 20 you will get your eventual target. So the entrepreneurship and the founders must think like that. You have to break. I have seen entrepreneurs, sometimes you ask them, how much are you looking to raise? I'm looking to raise $10 million. Do you know $10 million? How much? 84 crores. What is your current spend? 25 lakhs a month. Then what you will do? I say you double it, triple it, four times. You start spending 2 crores a month. Can you hire a team right away? If I give you the 2 crores today, can you hire everybody in your team next day? So when you're planning, plan judiciously. Okay. The reason I gave you this example is the thought process, not how you execute. You will be able to execute. We, as an expert or a mentor, will help you to guide what not to do. That is very very important. And of course, when you're talking about what you're building, always read. When you say read what is happening around you, it's good to know, good to be saying that you are the best and the product is the best and the solution is the best, but there must be somebody trying to replicate it or somebody doing a better job at it. So it is very important that you are aware of what is happening and the surroundings. Which we call market awareness. And with proliferation of tech, believe me, even people are writing letters using chat gpt, forget about writing it themselves. So what you can do in 20 minutes, that the chat GPT is doing in 3 minutes. You have to kind of compete with that kind of efficiency and productivity. So you have to remain very nimble and try and gauge what the market is doing to you. And constant customer feedback is necessary. Constant, and not saying one off, monthly, weekly. It should be at every moment you should receive a feedback, because from MVP to PMF, it is all about customer feedback, whichever geography, whichever sector, whichever technology you're using. If you're not getting the correct customer feedback, one, you will think you are doing the best, which is not the case. Second, it will start reflecting in your conversions. Third, it will reflect in your revenues. And once the revenues get stagnant, plateau, or starts to dip, your death valley starts to deepen, because then you have limited resources at an early stage, right? So those are the three very, very critical points. If you address the first three, I think most of it is operational.
Sure. Great. Thanks, Addison. I think we're out of time. Aditya, a lot of appreciation, a lot of questions. I cannot take it all, but maybe if you can find some time, reply to some of the comments that people have and very specific question. Tarun Kohli had, appreciated our talks. Thank you, Tarun. And this recording will be there on YouTube, and on the same link you can always access anytime. But great insights, Addison and Aditya. Thank you so much for your time in your busy day. In this 1 hour, you have mentored almost 52 plus startups, and I'm sure a lot of people will watch this recording later also. So thank you again. I'll, with this, we wrap up the session. Thank you, Addison. Thank you, and it was pleasure hosting you and having you here.
Same here. Thank you, Govind, for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks, Govind. Thanks, Addison. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you once again, all the audience, for coming to the startup series. You can follow Aditya and Addison through the links in the comment sections. I'm looking forward to host another guest in November. We'll keep you posted. Just follow us on my page, or just follow me. And we hope to extend this startup series. And also, this is a festival month, so I wish you all the best, and also a great festival month to all of you. So follow Arctic Invent for more information. Ring a bell for update. Thank you once again. Have a nice day.